Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a comparison between the drones and the fighter aircraft, because in the recently concluded war between India and Pakistan after the signing of ceasefire, now military experts and the strategic experts both within India and at the international global level are trying to understand that what lessons they can learn about the aerial warfare or the air-based warfare as such. So, in background, we understand that India has launched Operation Sindoor in a retaliatory strike against the Pahalgam terror attack, which was largely orchestrated and supported by the terrorists coming from Pakistan and backed by the Pakistani military and ISIs. So, last week, the world has paid careful attention to the air clashes during the Operation Sindoor, conduction Operation Sindoor. We have seen large-scale air clashes between India and Pakistan. Air clashes were reported in both dimensions, that is, where both countries have used drones against each other, and also the fighter aircraft were airborne, and they're also involved in large-scale dogfight as such. Now, the international interest did not stem from the purely altruistic concern. Why international community, international experts are interested here? Because they are keen to understand that how the weapon systems actually have performed in the unpredictable chaos of combat. For example, I think this is the first time when a 4.5 generation military aircraft has been involved in dogfights and aerial attack against each other, and this is also, we can say, for the first time where we have large scale uses of drones that has been carried out by the military of both countries. So that is why the interest of strategic community across the world has peaked, and they are trying to understand the implications of the entire development. Now, one thing that has been very clear is that there is a gradual and definite shift from the manned vehicles or manned aircrafts to the unmanned vehicles. For example, the fighter aircrafts or the duties, the tasks that fighter aircraft used to perform in the earlier war. For example, you talk about the war between India and Pakistan in 1965, 1975. Now, those roles to a large extent has been delegated to the drones and their detonating cousins, that is called as loitering munitions as such. So it has marked a gradual shift from relying solely on fighter aircraft, because fighter aircraft, first of all, they are very costly in nature, and second, there is a risk of loss of life of humans as well, as they are generally driven by the pilots. So overall, what we can see is a emerging possibility of using cheaper alternatives such as the drones and the loitering munitions as such. However, you also have to understand that though they come at a cheaper rate, they have a limited capability as compared to the fighter aircraft. However, experts argue that these can be considered as attritable weapons, that means which can be lost during the warfare, and its loss is not something that is taken too much into consideration by the military as such. So the reason is again because they are very cheap as compared to the fighter aircraft and are more expendable. Expendable means you can let few of them destroy and let few of them what you can say get destroyed with the enemy, because you do not care so much about the cost and the losses associated with it. So this has appeared to be playing a key role in determining the objective and outcome of the war. Now, before India-Pakistan war, we also have seen a similar kind of war between Russia and Ukraine, where again both countries have used drones liberally in each other's territory as such. So the modern warfare you talk about, especially in the aerial combat case and attack, it seems that it has completely changed now as compared to the last century, and even the next wars or the later wars that will be fought between different militaries, it seems that drone will be at the center stage of them. Let us try to understand about the economics and risk of using fighter aircrafts and drone. So let us look at the India-Pakistan case itself. Now, from India's side, it has used Rafale fighter aircraft, which it has procured from the France. So, if you try to understand the cost of one Rafale fighter jet, it comes to be somewhere about $285 million. And then the Elbit Sky Striker you talk about, this was the drone that was used by India. It is an Israeli-made drone. So, it cost just $105,000. That is why we have to understand how asymmetric warfare can be fought here, because if you are launching a fighter aircraft of $285 million, in case of losses, that is the amount of money you will lose, that is the dent in the economy that you will face. While even if you lose 10, 20 of such kind of drones, it will not have a huge impact on your budget as such, and that is why we have discussed that drones by the military and the government are largely considered as attritable and expendable in nature. Second is, on the other hand, we have to understand that second point also is meant that though we are talking about the Dassault Rafale, for example, as having a cost of $285 million, but here the benefit is that it can be used multiple times as such. You can fly many sorties, many missions by the Rafale aircraft, and it can be in your arsenal, or what you can call as the it can continue to support the military and air forces for a long duration of time. On the other hand, these drones are kind of suicide drones. That means you can use them for only one time. That means once you use this drone, you have to understand that you will definitely lose $105,000 as such. So while we're talking about the cost, both these points we have to keep in mind as such. Then second point we have to understand, if we talk about the advantage, obviously the most definite advantage the unmanned aerial vehicle its uses of drone is that it does not have any kind of human pilot driving it inside it. So the absence of human pilot can because of the absence of human pilot, it is able to perform operations without gambling and without risking the human life as such. So this is the first and most important benefit that we can highlight here. But at the other time, if you talk about from the cost perspective, because you can also think that if you're not using human pilots, that means we will have to incur lesser cost for training of the pilots as such, or the recruitment of pilots as such. But at the same time, as more and more drones become part of your arsenal, we'll have to definitely appoint and use more remote pilots, and then to some extent this will offset the cost of training. Second, the drones are vulnerable to interference, interception and signal jamming as well. And some drones which are autonomous in nature, like Songa drone which is used by Pakistan, they could work both autonomously as well as under the manual control. However, these autonomous drones also, they have seen to be exhibiting increasing degree of precision and operational efficiencies. But at the same time, if you look at the lessons and learn the lessons from the American drone users in the Afghanistan or Iraq, what we have seen is that the unmanned drones or autonomous drones, which are what you can say are fitted or deemed fit to take their own decision in the battlefield, they have accidentally misidentified targets many times, which has resulted in large-scale civilian casualty also. So these are the advantages, as well as these are some points that we can find as a disadvantages in the drone warfare as such. Now, as far as the capabilities and operational trade-off are concerned, again, if you look at the Rafale, we know that the external payload it can carry is up to 9,500 kilograms, while it is capable of reaching a maximum speed of Mach 1.8. Mach 1.8 means 1.8 times higher or greater speed than the speed of sound as such. So when an aircraft is moving at such a high speed, it becomes difficult for the anti-aircraft guns and the air defense system to target it. It can easily carry out the maneuver of what you can say escaping the attacks and can safely come back in the territory. On the other hand, if you take a look at the Israeli Harop drone that again India has used in the Pakistan, it is example of loitering munition, and it can only carry a warhead of 23 kg. That is how you can understand, though you are paying very low price for the drones, we have discussed $285 million, $100,000. But at the same time, the capacity also will be reduced many times. For example, Rafale can carry 9,500 kg of payload, while this drone can carry only 23 kg of payload. On the other hand, also Rafale can reach a speed of Mach 1.8. On the other hand, the Harop drone can reach only a speed of 417 kilometers per hour, which is very less. So obviously, you have to understand that if you are compromising on the money, you will compromise on the capabilities as well. Now, if we talk about the role of the drone in the combat, India has recently decided to purchase MQ-9B Predator drone from the United States of America. Now, this drone has a fuel capacity of about 2,721 kg, and it requires also, as you can see, that these drones is unmanned drone. There is no pilot inside the drone, but it required two pilots in the ground control station. So that is the point you have to keep in mind here, that just because you're operating unmanned aerial vehicle, it does not mean that you will not have to recruit, appoint and spend money in the training of the pilots. As such, here two pilots will be sitting in the control room. Weapons, it can carry it because it is much more larger in size. It is not like the suicide or kamikaze drones that are largely used by the Pakistan, India in this particular context. This weapon, this drone is what you can say, can carry weapons such as laser guided missiles. It can carry anti-tank missile as well as it can carry anti-ship missiles also. So it can be used in the naval arena as well as over the land. So The problem is that though this drone is much more capable, much more sophisticated, it has not been designed to replace the fighter aircraft, but for the precision strikes in such kind of environment where do not require complex context-based decision making. Now, this is very important point, because when a pilot is flying a fighter jet, he has to take decision based on the ground reality, whether he has to fire the missile or not. Now, this is something, if you do not require such kind of context based decision making, you can simply put the coordinates in the drone, and then you can allow the drone to carry out precision strike research. So both, what I understand, fighter aircraft and drones, both are very vital in the aerial warfare, but both are suitable for different kind of role as such. So MQ-9B that India is going to purchase, definitely it is more evolved and capable armed UAVs. They are not used as frequently as the cheaper counterparts and cheaper drones as such. Now, other advantage that drone offer is that it can participate in the reconnaissance mission. For example, it has the ability to perform reconnaissance, and this is because they are expendable in nature. That means even if the enemy is able to down your drones, you will be able to get some information, images and pictures from that area. That means drone has fulfilled its objective even when it is getting destroyed as such. So it will obviously have a role in the military strategy making, because you will have a better understanding of the enemy landscape, and the next round of attack, next stage of attack, you can plan based on the recent input as such. And that is one of the concerns that were raised by many experts when the Pakistan was launching a large number of drones, which many times is also referred as a swarm of drones. It is believed that Pakistan has launched 100-200 drones at one point of time. So that was largely believed to carry out a reconnaissance operation, because Pakistan wanted to again launch a second wave attack, maybe by using fighter aircrafts or missiles as such. Second, these drones can also play a very important role where the objective is not large-scale degradation of the military capabilities of the enemy, but largely to damage infrastructure and the attacking of the terrorist bases. That was the objective outlined in the Operation Sindoor as such. Now, some drones operate on MALE platform. That means medium altitude, long endurance platform. That means these drones can fly at above the commercial air traffic, that will not interrupt and intersect with the commercial air traffic, and at the same time it can remain airborne for very long duration of time. That means you can send this drone far away inside the enemy territory where you want to do the surveillance reconnaissance, and you can get adequate data, information, images from the use of this drone. Plus, this drone can also be used for the rescue operations such as SEAD, that means suppression of enemy air defense system also. So what we can say, in the initial stage of warfare, if the war is going to that stage where it seems that the conventional attack is imminent, in that case drone can be the first stage of operation, which can be helpful in carrying out suicide attacks. It can be helpful in carrying out reconnaissance operation. It can be helpful in suppressing the enemy air defense, and then in the next wave attack you can use your conventional aircraft, conventional missiles and all. So overall, what you can understand by looking at the two recently concluded conflict, not concluded, we can say, at least in Russia-Ukraine crisis, in the case still Russia and Ukraine, both countries have been continuously using drones against each other's territory and targets. So what we can understand, that by looking at the two recent conflicts, you can see that definitely the landscape for military tech is advancing and at a very high rate, and the increase in the development of more sophisticated UAVs is something that you will see in the next war as such. It may be more capable of acting as pseudo aircraft also. So rather than drones, which we see in the today's world, maybe now the countries will learn lesson, country will develop and spend more on R&D, and they can create such advanced version of drone which can act as a pseudo aircraft. That means pseudo aircraft means it will have the similar kind of advantage and capacity like aircraft, but similar kind of, what you can say, advantages, like for example, it will also have, as it will not be manned by a pilot as such. So the losses of life can be prevented to a great extent. Future warfare is likely to see development such as uncrewed collaborative combat aircraft. Uncrewed collaborative combat aircraft means where both fighter aircrafts operated by a pilot and the unmanned aerial vehicles will fly together, they will coordinate together and carry out precision strikes together in a form of collaborative venture or collaborative effort as such. So they can work in tandem with manned aircraft as well. So what we can understand, the one lesson that Indian military and Indian armed forces have to learn is that going forward, if you look at in the India-Pakistan what can call it as war, we have seen that not a lot of countries have come in full support of India. As for example, China, Turkey, Azerbaijan, you talk about, they have completely supported and backed Pakistan. And this kind of support is something that India has not seen from major powers, where most of the global powers, whether it is China, whether it is Russia, whether it is USA, UK, all of these were largely trying to contain the crisis. So in this kind of geopolitical scenario, it becomes very important for the country to have its own fleet of jet-powered unmanned aerial vehicle. And in this regard, already a lot of steps have been taken. For example, the DRDO, Defense Research Development Organization, they are trying to manufacture Tapas, which is a indigenous drone as such. So to remain technologically competitive and avoid foreign dependence in a time of changing global dynamics, that is the lesson that India should learn, and try to increase the components that are indigenously developed, try to incorporate more such drones which are indigenously developed, so that in times of war and crisis, will not have depend on any other power, any other country as such. We can be self-sufficient and take care of the enemy as such. So that is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit like button, share it with your aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.